To protect the sacred area, the stone gates were tightly closed, but as soon as Chaos signaled with his hand, they opened. Roa could not help but gasp at the sight that spread out before him, a huge town with canals running in all directions. Overwhelmed, Roa stopped on the bridge leading from the sacred area to the city, and Chaos looked back at him. It's quite something, isn't it? Thury is the next largest city in Stoicheia after the capital. The world tree, which took root here 3,000 years ago, has showered many blessings on the land. People gather here, and eventually, it became a huge city. The Thury I knew was just some rural district. It's changed so much. It has, without a doubt, been 3,000 years. The streets were crowded with a multitude of people coming and going. What caught Roa's eyes was the diversity of races. 3,000 years ago in Zoo, only Bioroids and Dryads were hard at work producing crops in the farmlands. At the center of the Zoo continent was the Great Nature University, where the incredibly intelligent Hypebeasts gathered the best of their knowledge. Even within nations, it was common tendency for only certain races to gather in each region. However, going right past them was a female elven knight wearing white armor and carrying a huge sword. Beyond her was a vampire dressed like a pirate walking by leisurely. It was hard to believe that this was a pastoral Thury district of the past. There seemed to be so many different kinds of people here. Ah, that's because of the Fire Regalis. The one who stole Chaos words and said them herself was Radalina, who was walking half a step behind them. Everyone is here in search of the Fire Regalis. No one knows what it is or where it is, but it must surely be near the World Tree. It's quite hard to get into the sacred area, but everyone is here to gather information and keep an eye out for it. Looks to be that way. That's why there's so many kids like young Ratty going about. Chaos shrugged his shoulders and pouted like a child. This is why there is no end to the number of suspicious individuals trying to infiltrate the temple. As a result, Lieta, the leader of the guards, has been running around frantically every day. I can't tell you how many times she said, "Stop pointlessly wandering around," and gotten angry at me. You've been wandering around? Well, it's in my nature to want to record everything I can. It's fine if you want me to call me the know-it-all guy. I'll answer anything you ask other than my 3 sizes. By the way, Lietas are from the top, 90, 58, and 84. Chaos spun his pen around, and the only thing Roa could say in return was, ha ha. So I know a bit about history. That's right, let's talk about what happened to this world after you fell asleep. That sounds good. Let's do that. The book in Chaos' hand glowed, forming an image in the air. After you fell asleep, Gyze was destroyed, thanks to the power of the 3 heroes, Chronojet, Altmile, and Asha. That Gyze? Roa's mouth dropped suddenly. The dragon deity of destruction, Gyze. For those of the general public like Roa, its presence and influence was too great. Although we would hear rumors that the battle against Gyze was continuing in the distant lands, as simple people we were too busy trying to keep the fire from falling on them. Yeah, and at the same time, the Messiah disappeared. The Messiah? He was rendered speechless by the reality that was conveyed to him in such a convincing manner. It was as if the bottom of the earth had fallen out, as if the 2 moons had disappeared, as if something that had been taken for granted had suddenly disappeared. He could not even hope to imagine the consequences thereafter. Seeing his surprise, Chaos nodded. The Messiah was like the sun. It was so obvious that its blessing poured over planet CRAY, and the people lived by its power without anyone noticing. And the badges kept piling on. The presence of CRAY's idea, the source of all divinities, could no longer be sensed. The reason being beyond the understanding of us commoners, but now this was quite a problem. Do you know what would happen? No. All the blessing had been lost. Of course, magic cannot be used. There were more natural disasters and more monsters, and because of the poor harvest, Neonectar's food supply could not keep up, and CRAY suffered from starvation. This difficult situation signified the beginning of the godless era. Chaos' history record displayed the suffering of people. Even so, the people continued to live, strong and stubborn for the past 3,000 years. The world split into smaller nations, merged, and after much hardship and chaos, the 6 nations were born. The image shifted to what looked like a world map, however, it was very different to the one Roa knew. The nation borders were different, and what struck him most was that the peninsula to the south of the Dragon Empire had been gouged into a circular shape. This place is... That's where Gyze met its end. Now, as the name implies, it's called Gyze's End Bay. You can see how grand an end it was, since it even changed the terrain. Is there anything else you'd like to know? Megalonica and Zoo are one? As expected of young Roa, that's a great point you've brought up. Yes, that's where this Stoicheia is. It is a country founded by the sage Master Stoicheia, who pursued the truth at the shrunken Great Nature University. He said, "Do not despair, but be grateful, for the divine blessings are spreading throughout CRAY and accumulating power while they support us." There, Zoo and Megalonica came into agreement and became one big nation. Ah, I see. There was so much information that he could only react in the way. Of course, Chaos did not realize this and kept up his pursuit. There was another group of people who agreed with Master Stoicheia. Bermuda Triangle. You know, those legendary divas, don't you? That's right, those beautiful mermaid divas who were said to make the sound of gunfire disappear on the battlefield on the day of their live performances. The girls later left Stoicheia and began to travel the world, accepting all kinds of individuals who wanted to become idols, while appealing for peace on the mobile school city, Lyrical Monasterio. This school is a giant white whale that moves through the skies instead of under the seas. Now, with magic being unable to use, do you know where this change had the greatest consequences? It's a simple quiz. Where was magic particularly well developed? Roa thought for a moment, then quickly came with an answer. Was it Dark Zone? Correct. My homeland was country ruled by Demon King. The demon lords who ruled it were chaotic and belligerent, and together with the disappearance of the divine blessings, the small nations reverted back into warring states. Eventually, a single hero appeared and managed to bring demon lords together, and Gear Chronicle gathered there. Now known as Dark States, it is thriving. A happy ending. Chaos turned the pen nib that had been pointing to the Dark States to the northwest. There was a country that was somewhat smaller than what Roa remembered. Next is a country once known as the United Sanctuary. This place was hit quite badly, because it had always been a country with a lot of civil strife. The loss of divine blessing caused a lot of dissatisfaction and decline of the Britain royal family. Furthermore, after consecutive civil wars and monster infestations, the land at its very limit was desolate. Eventually, 6 heroes from the 6 different clans of the country came together to create Keter Sanctuary, the heavenly floating islands. But where there is heaven, there is ground. What was born was a system where there were those who rule and those who were ruled. The new nation of Keter Sanctuary continued to this day despite its distortions. The United Sanctuary that Roa knew of was a country that valued justice and order, with knights who had high aspirations and huge corporations that made use of divination. It was difficult to imagine how it could have become so distorted. On the other hand, there is a country that has not changed, Dragon Empire. The 5 old dragons were able to remain active even without the divine blessings, and led their clans to continue to safeguard the continent, even when the world was facing despair. Why were they able to maintain such high aspirations? It was because of the temple called Red Dawn Manor, which guarded the egg of the current divinity, Nirvana. The egg hatched, and the Red Dawn Manor fulfilled the mission it had been given since ancient times. As a result, the climate and harvest on CRAY stabilized, and the 3,000-year-long era of darkness came to an end. As you can see, we are now in the midst of reconstruction. Take a look. With that said, Chaos spread out his arms and pointed to the city. There were wagons loaded with livestock, vegetable store owners shouting for people to come in, and boatmen rowing gondolas while humming songs. Not even a trace of anxiety on their faces. They were just desperately trying to make the most of today, so full of life. No matter what kind of world we live in, the people are strong and resilient. I think that it was the same 3,000 years ago as it is today. With that, this old tale is over. From here on, you will live your own story. Yes. Roa nodded firmly at Chaos' words. Ratty was looking for split ends in Momoke's fur. Chaos slammed his book shut. What do you plan to do now, young Roa? I'm going to look for the one who raised me, Olivia. Even if he is no longer in this world, I just want to know how he came to his end. His end. Just saying those words made him feel like the air around his chest was being tightly squeezed. In Roa's mind, Olivia was his partner who had been alive only yesterday. He cannot even fully understand that 3,000 years had passed, nevertheless accept that Olivia was dead. Even if there was a sliver of hope, he wanted to cling to it. Just as he made up his mind, a loud rumbling came from Roa's stomach. He quickly covered his stomach with what remained of his left arm, but it was to no avail. By the way, how much do you have on you, young Roa? About 2 silver coins, I think. Roa was prone to mugging, so Olivia was in charge of their wallet. Did he even have 2 silver coins on him? Chaos nodded. I see, he said, loudly, powerfully, dependably. You can count on me to help the young here. Ah. Immediately after turning over the inner pockets of his robe, Chaos gave a, oh no, look. Since I tend to splurge on things quickly, Mikani confiscated all. The sad-looking Chaos was met with an equally sad-looking Roa. For the time being, I guess I'll go look for a place to work. That's good, I'd love to take care of you, but it is hard for me to be free due to my status as a freeloader in the temple. Just then, a voice echoed down the street. Master Chaos, where are you? Looking at the bridge that spanned from the temple, they could see a pea-sized figure of a guard calling out Chaos' name. Letting out a voice that sounded like a frog being crushed, Chaos ducked into the shadow of a fruit stand that was stacked with lemons. Hiding his voice as if he was frightened, he called out Roa and Ratty. I've got to get back soon. Okay, young Ratty, I've got an idea. You're going to stay in town for a while, aren't you? After all, you haven't got what you came for. No thanks. I've got a better idea. No. Guards! Here's a scoundrel who infiltrated the sacred area and escaped. While Ratty gritted her teeth, Roa stood there, a wry smile across his face, as he had nowhere else to go. Is Olivia still possibly out there, searching for the young Roa? Perhaps he escaped his encounter with the unknown. Let's find the answers we seek in the CRAY Cross Epic.